Hey, this is me building and strategizing a $2 million a year business in public. I show you everything. I made 139K last month. Next month, my goal is 167K. So the way it works is we always start off with some Q&A. Q&A being obviously the questions that I take from this channel. Feel free to leave one in the comments if you want me to answer one in a next video. And then I do some growth stats. Then I finally round it out with some live strategy. So let's move over to the channel here and see what we got for questions. Gonna head over to the community tab, scroll all the way down. I got some juicy comments. People think I'm a robot, obviously. Let me zoom in to Rafa's question. He says, hey, Nick, what do you think about learning to code right now? I'm good at communicating with LLMs. Work as an AI automation engineer, creating agentic workflows using N8N. Super cool. Sorry for the video I published yesterday. Apologies. I'm no longer sure if it is necessary for me to learn how to code. I've been wondering about Python, but with all this AI being able to generate code and the ease of creating workflows in N8N, I'm not sure if it's a skill worth taking on. Or maybe do you think people should start to learn it differently? Just generate programs, be able to read them and debug, but skip learning how to write such programs from the ground up. I would love to hear your thoughts on coding. Here are my thoughts on coding. You know how with language, let's say you want to learn a new language, you want to learn French, you want to learn Spanish or something. You know how with language is sort of two parts, right? There's listening, and then there's understanding, and then there's also being able to generate new words for yourself. So in the lingo, from my understanding anyway, I've tried learning a bunch of languages here to middling levels of success. You have two. You have recognition-based learning, where their whole goal is to recognize the word as it's being said. Then you have some sort of generative learning, where you're basically forced to generate that word in your language, okay? So right now, in order to learn how to code, you got to obviously be able to do both. You got to be able to read all of the code, then you also got to be able to write the code. And your ability to write code and your ability to read code are definitely and explicitly, they're intertwined and linked. But in the future, AI is going to be doing the vast majority of the generating for us. And so it'll actually be sufficient for us to take, if you wanted to do this as efficiently as possible, it'd be sufficient for you to take most of your time and then bundle it into recognizing good code instead of just being able to generate it. Now, if we're being real here, is this going to make you as good of a programmer as you would have been 10 years ago when this technology didn't exist and you sort of had to learn it all yourself from scratch, including the recognition and the generative stuff? No, we're not going to be as good at programming or manipulating these lower level constructs as we are now in the future, simply because we don't really need to. The vast majority of the value production in programming will be done for us autonomously using AI. But not all is lost. I want you to think about like the 1950s, okay? Back in the 1950s, programmers used punch cards, AKA little cards, little pieces of paper that they programmed literal bits or some sort of low-level machine instruction into. This is your little card. These are all little holes. They would actually feed that into a big computer, okay? I don't actually know how to draw a robot. Sure, that looks like a TV. They actually fed this stuff into a computer manually, and then that was the job of programming, okay? Like 1980s, all right? Like programming was very low-level machine instruction. That was staring at like your black flickering, cathode whatever TV, and then not TV but display, and then seeing a little blinking green cursor, just like the Matrix, basically, where you had to use some sort of like low-level machine language, not necessarily assembly, but something very close to it. And then you had to be able to write in something that most people nowadays would never be able to understand or see. In like the 90s and like the 2000s, we had some higher level programming languages. But if a person today looks back on one of those higher level programming languages, or maybe even higher level, but still very low level in the grand scheme of things. If they look at one of these programming languages, they're like, I don't freaking know what the hell that means. The vast majority of people nowadays don't ever have to worry about stuff like memory optimization or managing a stack or whatever, aside from just like academic purposes. In like the 2010s and beyond, now what are we doing? We're doing like really high level, like Python. We're doing really high level, like web server setup stuff. We're doing like Node, a big chunk of the internet, as wonderful or terrible as it is now run on JavaScript. I guess the point that I'm making is, if we go into the 2020s and all of a sudden it's natural language, is that really that big of a jump, right? At every step, we're going from something that's basically unreadable or uninterpretable to something that's a little more interpretable. Okay. But at the end of the day, all of this stuff just sort of like compiles down anyway and turns into machine code that actually does something. It actually like, flicks 0s and 1s in binary basically on a computer in order to get something done. So anyway, to make a long story short, I don't think it's necessary for you to learn how to code. I think it's necessary and important for you to learn how to read code, because if you want to get into any sort of computer adjacent field in the next 5 years, like ours, it's important for you to be able to do that. But do you need to actually learn how to code, write such programs from the ground up? No, I don't really think so. Okay, my coffee is getting cold again, so I'm going to drink it while I am reading the next comment. Oh, that's really cool. What a great question. Well, can I show you my setup and all the things we use? Well, I can't. I'm like really technologically, and I'm doing this with like a shoestring budget, so I will. But you got to be quiet for. I'm not going to talk for a second, okay? Just hold me on. Hold on. This is my current. This is like where my camera is. To the left, I have a bookshelf, and then a big curtain. If I go back, I have a light panel over here on the left. You see on the right here, this giant dark thing? Well, that's actually another light that I have. Okay. So basically I have two lights. Then behind me, I have a closet. And then I have a pull-up bar. So I've actually installed I know you can't really see it, but if I screw with the if I screw with the lens here, it'll just like mess up my whole flow, and I don't really want to have to do it. And then yeah, that's more or less it. So I'm in a room. Oh, one more thing. None of you guys could see, but this is a bed. So I actually have my bed right next door to my little recording setup. Definitely not at all professional, and I hope I did not just destroy the illusion of this being like a really professional setup or anything. But yeah, that's that. So, to make a long story short here, I basically have. Oh, I think I screwed up my camera. Something like that would happen. Should be good. I basically have big softbox, monitor right in front of me. I got my other light. I'm sitting on a desk. I got my microphone Samsung QTU with like a boom mount thing. I have my camera, the Sony A7C, obviously. I got my laptop. Connected to my laptop, I have my little tablet, which a few people have asked about. This tablet is not like an iPad or anything. It's just a, I don't know, little piece of plastic that registers where I press, and then it maps it onto my screen, which is pretty cool. It's called an XP pen. Got my little bookshelf. I got these really cheap little painting things from HomeSense. It's just a store where you can buy furniture here. That one says, more espresso, less depresso. I tried getting a bunch of other little knickknacks, but to be honest, I don't really think the value is in the knickknacks. I just want it to look not completely shit. And then, yeah, I got my bed right over there. So I literally, like, when I say to people, when they're like, Nick, you got to do a POV day in the life video. And I'm like, the day in the life video would be me waking up, sitting here for 14 hours and then going back there on my work days anyway. That's basically my whole work day. Like, my bed's right over there. So I will bleary-eyed roll over, and then my desk is over here, and I'll be like, ah, shit, I got to do my morning actionables, and then I'll do my morning actionables. I'll record a video like this at some point, then usually I'll, like, I don't know, take half a nap or something. I do go outside from time to time, don't get me wrong. I do touch grass. But yeah, those are my big work days, like the entrepreneur days. I'm just staring at a screen for 14 hours. Not exactly the most interesting. In terms of what I carry around, I have a iOS, the most recent one, 16 or whatever. No, not iOS 16, sorry, but the iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence. I got a MagSafe case on it. That's one of these. So I have this little circle in the middle that allows me to connect magnetic wallet. Now, I used to look at these and I used to think, dude, you're dumb as hell for carrying your wallet with your phone. But the reality is, this is the most convenient, one of the most convenient things I've ever had, because it makes it so that I don't have to carry around a wallet and a phone simultaneously. So really all I have to do is a wallet and a phone independently. All I have to do now is, as long as I know where my phone is, I'm good. I can leave my house and drive my car, and I got my license and everything that's out of there. I'm good to go. And then all I need is my keys. So I just have one pocket that's full of my phone and my wallet, and then another pocket that's full of my keys. I do this because there's this cool feature on the Apple iPhone now that tells you when your iWallet, whatever the hell it's called. Your Apple Wallet's been disconnected. So I consider it actually even better than me having a normal wallet, because and I have lost my normal wallet a bunch of times. When you lose your normal wallet, you don't know where the hell you dropped it. Here, it'll tell you dropped it at this exact latitude and longitude. So I mean, for me anyway, it's even safer, I guess, which is kind of cool. There are some minor inconveniences there. Obviously, it's not very thick, so I can't put a ton of stuff in there. I wish I could put just one more card, because I use a couple of stores like Costco that don't take certain credit cards like Visas and stuff. They only take MasterCard. So that's kind of annoying. But yeah, that is my tour. I know that was not the highest. Welcome to my crib. Welcome to Nick's little dungeon of horrors. I know that wasn't as high quality as probably some of the other ones that you've seen, but c'est la vie. And hopefully you guys could hear me back there with the mic. Okay, Abdi Aziz Abdullah says, I'm from Kenya, third world. How do I reach out to international clients? Same way you're reaching out to me right now, man. 100%. Exactly the same way you're reaching out to me. Like, you posting this comment could be seen as you reaching out to international clients. It doesn't have to be very complicated. You don't need special tools in order to do so. You got an email address, presumably. You got the ability to go on social media, Instagram, Facebook, right? You could send DMs. You have all of the same means, basically. That's the really cool thing about the digital world, right? Like these social media apps and these platforms and email, they're basically like opportunity equalizers in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people use them and they've squared away the vast majority of the world's wealth and stuff. And, you know, in many cases, rightfully so, they've produced a ton of value. Think about like the guy who invented Uber, for instance. But it's kind of an equalizer in that way, right? Like, the mechanism that I will use to reach out to people will be the same as the mechanism you use. Sure, there's some tools that allow me to do things easier that I will pay, like, you know, Western prices for, which I'm sure if you were to pay $100 a USD for a month for subscription or something, like, probably everybody in your town or wherever you are would look at you and be like, what are you, crazy, you lunatic? That's like, you know, half a month's worth of rent or something. But it is pretty powerful. Yeah, it is pretty powerful. It struck me how powerful it was when I was in Bulgaria, Eastern Europe, with, this is one of the years where I was visiting my family, and I saw people, I saw a bunch of my cousins, and one of my cousins was saying, you know, about how he got this big promotion to his job and how he's working this big hotel chain, basically. And he was talking about how much money he was making, and they make leva over there for now. They'll probably switch over to the euro at some point, but it's Bulgarian lev. And he was making 700 Bulgarian lev a month, which is equivalent to, I think, like 450 USD. And he was working probably like 10-hour days, full-time as hell. Mind you, this is in a much smaller town than like the big capitals. There's a big difference in like Sofian earnings potential. That's the capital city of Bulgaria. And then maybe like some small selo or a village or whatnot. But still, I was hauling ass for 450 USD a month. And then I was thinking, man, I have like $2,000 a month worth of just software subscriptions alone back then. So I was like, Jesus, like, you know, I wonder how much like labor I could get out in Bulgaria, realistically. Anyway, then I had another guy who was not part of my family, but who was doing some computer programming stuff. And he was working for a Western company, and he was making like 5x what my cousin was making working at this hotel. And he was doing it all just from like the comfort of his own home and his laptop. So if you think about it that way, man, you make a ton of money arbitraging for sure. All right. Chad Lee says, hey, Nick, I think I found a solution to your churn rate. Your course is just too damn good. There's your issue. 1 in 5 people are spending like $60 to get $6,000 in value and robbing you blind. I'm not being robbed, but yeah, I know. I know that I'm offering a lot more value than I'm charging, that's for sure. But that's the whole value prop, right? Jokes aside, I bought it a day ago. I've already learned more than I have from some other courses that have cost me $2,500. Thank you. I've skimmed over some of the days down the line. Don't worry. Haven't skipped any. I'm still a good, obedient boy. Just got to say, it's so refreshing to know I'm in good hands. No question today. Just want to spread the love for you, absolute legend. Thank you very much, Chadley. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. I appreciate everybody that's jumped on here. Wholeheartedly concur with the comment. Thank you, Elixist. Joel asks, what are the day-to-day learning modules? What does it focus on? Is it worth it for a person with a beginner level in business? Yes. And then we have a bunch of people that are providing context. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. I don't know if Joel meant to comment on it twice, but I'm not going to like your second comment for posterity. Cool. Let's do one more. Producer Soft says, how much the positive comments seem to help. Just want to let you know that you're leaving a legacy of amazing value, giving back a lot to the community. Thank you. You might never meet most of us, but the amount of goodwill and gratitude towards you from your audience is much higher than you would expect. I appreciate the candidness you show. I wish you the absolute best. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking about it the other day that I think this sort of content's great because it allows me to, like, I have a responsibility, I feel, to show people what the actual day-to-day process looks like when you're managing a company like this. I just feel like I have a responsibility to do so. I've gotten a lot of value from YouTube and various people that I followed back in the day. And, you know, there was no real way for me to pay that forward aside from just leaving comments like you guys are now. So it almost feels like I have a responsibility to pay it forward to the people that, I might be, I might have started in this a few years before a lot of the people that are commenting on this. And so I've just gained a lot of experience by proxy and osmosis. I kind of feel like I have a responsibility to show you what it actually looks like when you go through the process, not this hyper glamorized way that a lot of people are pitching things. Okay. Yeah. Let's actually answer a question because I do love all the positive energy and I will continuously ask for it because I'm a little validation monkey, but I want to make sure you guys get value out of it too. Thank you very much, Saraev. I started AI automation in November. It took me 2 months to learn it. Then I tried getting clients, but since January, I've only got 2 clients, which are in the process of getting closed. What are the top 3 ways you would give it to me for getting my first few clients on board? Thank you. Wonderful. Nice. So I think we should just start off by changing some terminology here, Sora, because I see it a lot in my communities. I wouldn't consider anybody a client until they have given you money. Sorry, not given you money or paid money. Let's put it that way. Because sometimes you'll get a free client, but the freeness will be contingent on them paying for something. So I don't know, paying for some software subscription. They need some sort of buy-in, basically. So until money changes hands, or maybe your agreement is signed, your proposal is signed or something, I wouldn't actually consider it a client per se, okay? Unless you have something good to go. Because I have a lot of people saying, hey, just close this client. And then a couple days later, they're like, oh, okay, like we didn't end up getting the money, so the deal didn't happen. It's like, okay, but you said you closed the client. The pipeline basically is, you're doing all this stuff, you meet the prospect, you have like a disco call. This stands for discovery call. It's the first call that you have with a prospect to sell them. Maybe if you're running some other sales process, you'll have a closing call. Maybe they sign proposal. And then finally, they pay the invoice or something. This is sort of like how most agencies will do things, okay? I don't think this is the best way, but that's okay. We'll cover that later. So a lot of people think that they close the client. If the client says yes over here, they say, oh, okay, the deal's closed. The deal's not actually closed. Wait until they sign, ideally, wait until they pay the invoice. This is where they're closed, okay? Because it's one thing for somebody to say yes, but it's another thing for them to actually pay you a little bit of money. And if you're running a totally free client, like some people do, and I've done free work before, then maybe it's something like sign proposal, or maybe it's like, pay for software platform, pay software sub or something. This would be like actually closed, okay? This is getting pretty messy, so I'll leave it there. But yeah, that's just the very first thing that I want to say. What are the top 3 ways you would give me for getting my first few clients on board? So yeah, make sure that you're actually like converting a client into a client. The other one is, okay, since January, so it's March now, you've gotten 2 clients, which are now in the process of getting closed. It's been, I guess, about 60 days realistically, maybe more, maybe like 70 days. If you stick to some daily recommended outreach minimum and you just make it known to you that you have to do at least this much outreach every single day for the next 60 days or something, you'll be able to hit a pretty large outreach number. Like if you think about it, if you've gotten 2 clients since January and like your strategy isn't completely off, if you had reached out to 10 people, I don't think you have, but if you had reached out to 10 people a day, you'd be somewhere around 700 people right now, right? How many of those 700 people actually have to be interested in your service to get them to the same point that you've gotten them here, which is you haven't even gotten money off of them, it sounds like, right? Very, very few, okay? The math here is 2 out of 700, which realistically is 1 out of 350, or 0.28, I think. 0.28? It's not 2.8, yeah, so it's 0.28%, okay? That's super low. That's super, super, super low. Super duper, duper low. To have somebody just say, yeah, I want to work with you. I mean, that means that you have to go through 349 no's. or 349, like, I'm not even interested, before you get to one that says, yeah. So I guess the point that I'm making is if you had performed this level of consistent daily and reliable outreach using some of the mechanisms that I've shown in Maker School and on my YouTube channel, stuff like these daily Loom videos, because now you spent 2 months on AI automation, you kind of understand the niche, you understand some of the services involved. If you'd spent every single day, your first hour or so doing this outreach, it would be very statistically improbable, even if you absolutely suck at what you're doing, like you're the worst, it'd be overwhelmingly statistically improbable that you would not get at least this result. Okay. Realistically, we usually see rates of, I don't know, maybe like 2% or so to get to about the same level. So what's that? That's 8 times your result. So anyway, what I'm thinking is you probably reached out to at least 8 times less than this. So I think you probably reached out to maybe like 80 people in this time span, which is about 1 person a day, and maybe even less. Maybe you've just gone through referrals or whatever, and that's fine. But I think you could do way better. So I guess to recap, way number 1 was be very clear on what closed is. Way number 2 is be abundantly clear on some sort of daily recommended outreach minimum, like sending 10 apps a day on some job platform like Upwork, sending 10 customized Loom videos through some means through DMing and Instagram and X.com and all that stuff. Number three might be standardize the sales call process. So I have this roadmap over here that I put together a while ago. It's called my roadmap to 25K a month with automation. Ah, shit. Well, I just lost the page, but that's okay. I guess I'm not going to get back to it. It's called my roadmap to 25K a month with automation. You can get it on nicksaraev.com. It's just download free roadmap to 25K and, check out all my case studies, check out my programs and stuff if you want. But basically, this runs you through an automation customer journey where you have all these lead gen funnels, okay? And they all just funnel you into a meeting, basically. And then you have a variety of ways that you could follow up cycle, do a sales meeting, and so on and so forth. This is like, if I just zoom out, this is basically the business model, okay? 100% the business model. So what I would do is, and not everybody uses this business model, but I recommend if you're a beginner, you haven't maybe landed 5 or 10 clients, just do it, all right? Looks like we have 40 people in here now, thank you. Is I would just do this business model, standardize your sales process so that every time that you meet somebody, you funnel them into the same place, which is a meeting booked. Then you do some sort of call, like a sales meeting. And then you always send a detailed proposal or scope of work, even if you don't really think the job is 100% worth it or whatever. Standardize it. Do the same thing every time. If you get in the habit of doing the same things every time, you know what happens? Well, you basically built a piece of infrastructure now that you can iterate and improve upon. So you do it for 10 clients. You're like, all right, this doesn't really give me the results I'm looking for. Well, great. Do it for another 10, make a couple tweaks, and then you'll actually see a slight increase in your conversion rate and your metrics. This sort of standardization is required to achieve it in basically any business model. So that would be my recommendation for you. That's probably what I would do if I were in your shoes. Okay. Did I not do brand stats yesterday? I didn't do brand stats yesterday. Oh my God. No, it's the first day that I've missed. That's terrible. Well, I'm not going to let that beat me up. I guess I'm just going to take the average of the last 2. Yeah. Guess that's all I could really do. Okay. My daily updates channel is at 1451 now. The average of this is 1410. So I'm just going to go 1410. It's probably not entirely correct, but is what it is. My Instagram channel, which I can find by going blastup.com, Instagram follower account, Nick Saraev, is now at 38,743. The average of these 2 is 37,777. I got triple sevens, baby. Lucky. And then my main channel, which is blown up a little bit after I published that last video about how AI agents are, N8N AI agents are just a little bit hyped right now. 56,609. We are up by 354. Wonderful. That's very, very cool. Okay, so what are we seeing with our graph? We continue to truck along to some inevitable meeting point between my Instagram and, well, actually, we're actually further off than that. I don't think this is taking all the days anymore. We must be out of bounds. So yeah, we're actually out of bounds here. Let me go back to setup, and then what do I want? I said D39. We're at D40 now, man. We're actually all the way over here. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, things are going pretty well there. Yeah, okay. So let's just cover really brief because I did do a podcast with Jack Roberts in a second. Let me cover this podcast with Jack Roberts. You guys probably know Jack Roberts. If you don't, check out his channel. He's a really cool guy. You know, shit. I don't actually know what his channel is. Jack Roberts AI. There we go. So, when like nobody's looking at this now. When you get like competitors and stuff that are creating content in the same space as you. What's really interesting is everybody just tends to like have slight skepticism or dislike for each other. I would find, so that when there's some sort of outreach, or they try and connect with you or something like that, you always just kind of like, is this guy just trying to screw me? And it's good to think about business in such a way, whereas if somebody does reach out to you that you don't have some pre-existing connection with, and they are in the same field as you, it is good to have that mindset, because in reality, the incentive is for the person to screw you in some way, shape, or form. But Jack reached out to me many, many months ago, like 6 months ago. And he just dropped me a quick message. It was like, hey, man, what's going on? Like, you want to chat? Like, it'd be really cool to check in with you. I know that we're doing similar sorts of content. And I was like, I don't really want to do that. I just want to like continue making content, stare at my screen for 14 hours, go to bed, and just repeat that for the next 6 months. So, like I sent him a message back or something, but we got the messages buried. I didn't end up getting back to him. Then a few months later, and like a month or two ago, he sent me another message, and it was just like, hey man, like, how you feeling? Like, you want to have that chat now? And I was like, oh shit. So I just decided I would take it as like a little bit of business serendipity. And he ended up being one of the coolest guys I've met in the last year, easily. Like Jack, obviously, just from the look of things, look at this cool guy with the squarest jaw on planet Earth. He put Christopher Reeves to shame. He ended up being one of the coolest guys ever. And it's not that we immediately started looking for things for us to do together, but we did kind of realize what a big audience overlap we had, obviously talking about similar technologies. And we decided like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of value in a 100K a month business owner talking to another 100K a month business owner. So why don't we just like start some sort of podcast or start some sort of conversation that's recurring, and then just record it. Then we'll just put it out and we'll see if people like it. So we did that, and it went really well. People really liked the video, and it was cool. Like that, a lot of people that watch both of our channels got to like, see their AI, I don't know if you want to call them like, mentors or whatever, just meet up and actually talk. And there was a lot of like love and positive energy that resulted. And I think both of our engagement metrics went up as well. So yeah, I've just decided that I'm going to do this little chat with Jack Roberts. I don't know how often it's going to be. It's going to be totally casual, not formal at all. We're basically just going to bring a list of AI news once every couple of weeks, I think is the idea right now. And we're just going to riff on it and talk about AI news and talk about our thoughts on where the industry is going and stuff like that. Totally informal, man. The first time I did the podcast with him, we jumped on. He's like, hey, are you cool if I just start recording? And I was like, yeah, screw it. Let's do it. And I was still like really bleary-eyed and pretty tired. And I was just like waking up while I was doing the podcast, and it ended up being great. So I'm looking forward to doing that sort of more serendipitous content. And I also really like the idea that I think is pretty slept on. The idea that you can grow a content base simply by talking about things that you love and talking to people that are on the same wavelength as you and that are just naturally interesting. Because now I get to kill two birds with one stone. I get to build a stronger relationship with a guy who I like and I think is doing great things in the industry. Then I also get to do that same thing while producing some sort of content. Similar to my whole methodology and paradigm about producing content while you work. If you have to do a project for a client, might as well record it, talk people through it, and then you've spent 10 extra minutes to get a whole hour of content anyway. It's kind of similar to that approach here. It's just instead of you like building a thing, you're just talking to somebody that you find cool. Now, obviously, I'm not saying tape record your conversations with all your friends, but just wanted to give you guys some insight into my ideas here. That's what Joe Rogan does. That's what all the big podcasters since time immemorial have done. My First Million, right? They're actually like taking notes while they have conversations with these people because they were going to have conversations with these people anyway. Might as well record it, see where they land. All right, guys. Thank you very much for being with me today. Looking forward to tomorrow. Check in with y'all then. Bye.